A very good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here for Nationwide at 5. It's time for the cover story. My name is Ricardo Brooks.
Good afternoon, top of the afternoon to you, Sir Ricardo. Good afternoon to our listeners on the 90 FM band and, of course, our viewers on YouTube. I'm Tyrone Reed.
And you know, Tyrone, we're starting at a little bit of an awkward moment because the singing of the national anthem will happen now. And I'm not quite sure if I should stand or not. But listeners, the national anthem is being played because we're here at the National Arena for the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF's second biennial Transformation, People Quality and Technology Expo. So they're just getting started with the playing of the national anthem.
Perhaps you should stand and I'll do the reading.
Yes, please, Tyrone.
All right. So as we were telling you, Ricardo is over there. We're coming to you also live, from the expo being put on by the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And Ricardo is going to give you the details. Of course, I think we go live from there at about 6, at the top of the hour. So, but we want to focus our attention inside the cover story on politics. Yes, we're turning our attention to what's happening with what is being described as a massive political struggle that's shaping up in Western St. Mary, where the JLP chairman, Robert Montague, is trying to fend off a strong challenge from the PNP's Omar Woodbine. When our news center visited the constituency on Wednesday, the political battle lines were clear, with constituents telling us Bobby Montague may be facing the race of his political life. Our news center visited 3 of the 5 divisions across Western St. Mary. We canvassed views in Oracabessa, Gayle and Boscobel. For some residents, time has run out for the JLP chairman. One woman who invited our news center into her yard said she's had enough.
Since the election now, we start seeing things being done. What happened to 8 years ago? What all these things? Why have to wait? It can't be done in 1 year. It can't be done in 3 months. So tell me what you got. We don't need any more promises. We don't need any more promises. Action. That's what we need. Time come.
The voice there of a constituent. Go ahead, Ricardo.
Right, of a constituent in Western St. Mary. Bobby Montague is defending a majority of just over 3,000 votes, but those alarm bells started ringing following the 2024 local government election. At that time, 3 of the 5 divisions in the constituency fell to the opposition PNP, and the alarm sort of reached fever pitch when a recent nationwide Blue Dot poll showed that Montague was trailing his would-be challenger by a massive 19 points in this traditional weather vane seat.
Of course, and those who, the political watchers will know that this is a seat that usually goes in favor of the winning political party on election night. Yes, Montague he rebounded in 2016, bagging more than 11,000 votes and opening up a majority of 3,000, as Ricardo told you. A shopkeeper we spoke to said despite the discontent on the ground, she thinks the JLP chairman could pull it off for the JLP.
Me I tell her say, me no Jane or me no, but me sister Bobby I work. He work when me say, if the clinic want fix, I him see it fix. Any little thing, school, any little thing, anybody in the area they want house or anything, any little thing, road, water, any little thing, you see Bobby. Funeral, if I funeral in the area, member say if I'm 20 minutes tomorrow in one of them.
The voice there of a constituent out in the constituency represented in Parliament by Robert Montague. It's Western St. Mary or St. Mary Western. Joining us to discuss this issue of this weather vane seat is political commentator Dr. Nadine Spence, and of course another political commentator and founder and executive director of Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment, Jade Limited, Jermaine Barrett. Lady, gentlemen, Good evening, good afternoon, pardon me. Welcome to Nationwide at 5.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good afternoon to you,
Good evening to
Tyrone.
everyone.
Hi, Nadine. Hi, Ricardo.
Ricardo was having quite the time of his life out in St. Mary Western, so I'll allow him to bowl off the first question to you.
Yeah, and I suppose I'd ask you, Dr. Spence, what do you make of what we're picking up in this weather vane seat? You wouldn't expect that so close to a general election, a party chairman would be facing this kind of pushback from his constituents, would you?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. And one of the things that happened, because I remember the polls, the Blue Dot polls, and at the time, I don't remember specifically, Ricardo, but I think the Blue Dot poll says that the JLP was trailing in St. Mary. Or that's what
Yes,
the Blue
that's
Dot
correct.
poll said. So
Yes, that's correct.
I've been asking around, what is happening as it relates to Bobby Montague. At the time, I didn't know if it was Bobby Montague or if it was Dr. Dunn. But then I realized that it was after the reference, the concern was about Mr. Montague's constituency, and that perhaps there was some feeling. Well, I think that because he was no longer in a ministerial position, because he was no longer on the national stage, that perhaps he had let down his political guard a little and wasn't as active as he could be in the constituency. But having had conversations with people, I was told this is in fact not the case, that he lives in his constituency and does a lot of work in his constituency. Yes. So they would be surprised if what is being indicated by the polls and perhaps by your own the narratives that you got today when you went, Ricardo, if that was in fact the truth. So I'm not sure if the JLP is overly concerned or overly worried. I don't get the sense that they are. I think they believe that Bobby Montague is going to bring home the victory on election day. But at the same time, what the poll is revealing and perhaps some of the concerns that you heard are worthy of a deeper dive into what is really happening there.
Well, there was a show of strength with the Prime Minister himself, Ricardo, being out in the constituency with the JLP
and several cabinet ministers as well.
And so clearly, that seems to suggest on the face of it that they are taking note of what is being said on the ground. And of course, the Blue Dot polls, 19 points is quite significant, isn't it, Jermaine Barrett? And of course, against the backdrop of those 19 points, the fact that he's no longer in, the cabinet, shouldn't that have translated to more time on the ground in this constituency?
Absolutely, Tyrone. I think what we're witnessing here is a bit of a microcosm of what is taking place across the society with respect to the ding-dong battle between the PNP and the JLP. And it is clear that the JLP is taking stock of the trends. The polls are not moving in their favor. 19 points is significant, of course, and your party chairman being on the losing end of that particular statistic is certainly worrying. You will recall, Tyrone and Ricardo, that before the local government elections, I think the night before, the Prime Minister was in that constituency, really working hard to inspire voters towards to have them voting for the Jamaica Labour Party. That didn't work too well. I mean, they lost 3 of the 5 divisions to the PNP. So it is clear that I think a lot of the wind and the kind of energy has been knocked out of Bobby Montague after his fall from grace, if you will, coming out of the cabinet and so forth. And then, of course, it is also clear that the role of the party chairman is that it's an important role, but it's not a role that is decisive in terms of mobilizing the party machinery to your benefit. It's somewhat of a ceremonial role almost. The decisions really are made, and the focus is really around the leader of the party, in this case, the Prime Minister himself. And so I don't know that it matters much that it is the party chairman But I think what it does indicate is that he has to really pull up his socks now and get in the game. He has to rely on the Prime Minister's good reputation, because I think the Prime Minister's numbers are looking good, fairly well in that constituency. He has to rely a bit more on that, and then of course he has to go and beat the pavement and recommit and reconvince his constituents that he's the man. Bearing in mind as well that the opponent is also doing a similar hard work.
Well, I think we're up on the break. We're up on the break. This is the cover story. We're talking politics, the weather vane seat out in Western St. Mary. It is said that the incumbent, Robert Montague of the JP, is in the fight of his political life. Yeah, we'll see whether that is the case come election night. But we're talking politics right here on Nationwide at 5. We'll take a break and come back with more.
Years of dreams, 50 years of finger-licking good memories, yeah.
Thank you, Jamaica, for 50 years of finger-licking good memories. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
And now, for a special message on the JCF Transformations Expo 2.0 by Deputy Commissioner Karina Powell-Hood.
We've been planning for months, and now we're ready to share more of the essence of who we are. At the JCF Transformations People, Quality and Technology Expo 2.0, coming June 19 to 22nd at the National Arena in Kingston and at the Montego Bay Community College. Come, see, experience what you've been hearing about your transforming police force.
Delicious meals, poolside cocktails, right on the beach. Disconnect from your daily worries and reconnect with the one you love. There's no paradise like home. This summer, enjoy a romantic all-inclusive escape at Couples Tower Isle, Couples Sanssouci, Couples Negril, or Couples Swept Away from $295 USD per night. Take advantage of this offer today by visiting Couples Resorts at couples.com. Conditions apply.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with us right here inside the cover story on the flagship program Nationwide at 5. We have with us political commentators, Dr. Nadine Spence and Jermaine Barrett, and we're talking about the massive political struggle that is shaping up out in the weather vane seat of Western St. Mary, where the JLP chairman, Robert Montague, is said to be trying to fend off a strong challenge from the PNP's Omar Woodbine. It is being said on the ground that he is in a fight for his political life. Nadine Spence, you heard that comment there from Jermaine Barrett. If I could just bring you back into the conversation here. Bobby's struggles a microcosm of what might be happening across the country for the JLP?
I don't get that sense from the national narrative at this point. Now, I get the sense that the JLP is gathering momentum. I've been watching what is happening on social media. I've been tapping into the quote-unquote informal news network. I've been watching the activities, and I get the feeling that the JLP is gathering momentum, and that there is a lot of questions now about how longer can the PNP go, given they have been campaigning for 5 years. In fact, I heard a comment on one of the bloggers this morning saying that the PNP is running out of money. I don't know how true that is. That's just, as I said, from my informal news network. I've been hearing that. I've been listening to what is happening on the ground. I haven't been hearing much about St. Mary. As a matter of fact, when I heard the polls from Blue Dot the other day and saw the numbers, I was a bit surprised at it, because I thought Bobby Montague's seat was one of the quote-unquote safe seats. But I'm also recognizing that what we're seeing is that even though there are safe seats, there are not safe seats. They understand people cannot, those who are in seats cannot sit down and think that they're going to win. They're going to have to go out and campaign and fight and say why and prove to people why. I heard a caller on one of your programs the other day. I didn't hear it at the time it happened, but I heard a clip where the caller was saying, I'm not anything anymore. I'm neither PNP nor my JLP. Whoever is going to get my vote is going to have to work for it. And I think that is the thriving sentiment. People feel as if they need to hear and need to see and need to have their MPs demonstrate. I was having a conversation.
But that can't be good for the incumbent, though, Nadine Spence, can it?
No, it's not. But that's why it feels like it is such a close election, because I want to tell you this. I was having a conversation with 3 MPs the other day, and this is the same thing they were saying, that if they're not in their constituency every day, going from place to place, people will say to them, I haven't seen you in a long time, and they will be saying, yes, but the constituency is big. And you might, if I'm in Gayle, I might be in Gayle this week, and people in Oracabessa might be saying, I haven't seen you. And so the MPs are coming under a lot of pressure from voters who are demanding more and who are saying, you have to work for my vote and I need to see you. And you need to do work. And it's not even that you need to do work a year ago. You need to do recent work. You need to be up to date with what is happening in the constituency. So I think our voters are getting very much more demanding. And every MP prospect, those sitting in the seat now and those who hope to sit in the seat, are going to have to work their tail feathers off to keep their seats. I don't know if there are any safe seats anymore.
I think, Ricardo, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, no, absolutely, because I think Dr. Spence puts her finger on an important point I picked up yesterday. We spent about 6, almost 7 hours just driving across the 3 divisions that we were able to visit. And one of the things I kept hearing was that, one, they weren't seeing the Member of Parliament enough, even though he lived there, and there was a willingness to dismiss the national achievements. So when I would point out to them, for example, they'd say, the government needs to do more on jobs. And I'd say, but unemployment is at its lowest in recorded history. There was this sort of cavalier shrug at that statistic to say almost, well, I'm not sure because I haven't heard enough about it. And so it does suggest that there are gaps in the communication where the people on the ground, certainly in Western St. Mary, don't think this information is being, I suppose, passed on to them enough, and they're seemingly blaming Bobby Montague for that because their conclusion is that he's not doing enough. In fact, one man pointedly said, well, if crime is down, me not hear about that because me not see the MPs. So I think Dr. Spence is onto something there, that they are personally holding the Member of Parliament responsible. Precisely, even though things are trending in the right direction nationally, they're saying, they're saying we don't see him, so we're upset, and so we're going to dismiss those things.
So the need for individual MPs to perform no safe seats, take that notion out your minds, Jermaine Barrett, is something that is seemingly being reinforced here. All politics being local, and for Bobby Montague, who for the Blue Dot polls says he's trailing his would-be challenger by 19 points, and this after he won the seat in 2016 by a majority of 3,476. So for him to be here at this point now, it takes quite some doing.
It certainly does, and it goes back to the point that when he was, in the early days when he was a Member of Parliament and had a ministerial portfolio, despite the fact that ministers of cabinet don't get as much time with their constituency, they have a national profile that is constantly being projected in terms of in the media and all about the place. So your constituency know that a Member of Parliament is working at a national level, and that gives you a sense of pride, and it gives you a sense of, the joy that, yes, my Member of Parliament is working, if not directly for me, at least there's that element. Now Bobby Montague, having been shoved almost out of the cabinet and resigned to a more inferior role, the kinds of expectation, the kind of prominence that he would have brought to the role of Member of Parliament because of the national profile has also been diminished. That is disappointing, quite frankly. And then we contrast that. One of the things that I think we need to look at is what accounts for the significant, margin that Omar is now sort of demonstrating ahead of Bobby Montague, because Omar is not a national figure. He doesn't have as national a profile as does Bobby Montague. And so what it probably boils down to... I
have an answer for that.
Yeah?
I think I have an answer for that, Jermaine. I think it's just discontent. Because they also say they don't see Woodbine enough. In fact, one shopkeeper told me while I was sitting at the front of her shop that whenever he comes with a camera in tow, and she rejects that because she feels she's being used as a PR prop. So it's not as if they are suggesting, certainly the people I talk to, that he has put something forward that they're moving towards. It's simply that they are very upset with the incumbent Member of Parliament. And I think the Jamaica Labour Party now has to be aware of how that discontent, that vote against rather than a vote for, could become a real problem.
Can I add something?
Go ahead, Nadine.
Yeah, there was a statement that the Prime Minister made the other day that caused some people to be concerned about him, saying the JLP doesn't need an opposition because JLP voters are hard to convince and they're very critical of their party and they will not turn up and they are less loyal. I think that is what he was saying. So the voters themselves will do the defeating of the party if they are not careful.
Absolutely.
I think I heard him. That's what I heard him say.
Yes.
And that is what
That's indeed what he was suggesting.
They're not as diehard as diehards usually are, is what is the suggestion.
No. They're not as diehard. They won't go out and vote, but you have to come and convince them. They know that they will give you their support, but they do not want you to bank on it. They don't want you to take them for granted. They want you to come, and even if it is that what you have to offer is an apology, or what you have to offer is contriteness, that will suffice, I think. But you must come, I think, and acknowledge that we are the people who send you there, and when you stay away from us, then it's going to reflect. We're not going to vote if you don't come and ask us for the vote.
Very quickly, before we run out of time, to both of you, do you think this handsome increase that was given to parliamentarians has caused people to be demanding more? Do you think that has had an impact on how the voters are viewing performance by members of Parliament? Beginning with you, Jermaine.
Thank you. I think it most certainly has. I mean, people now recognize that members of Parliament have been paid so handsomely, are therefore expecting more performance from their members of Parliament. I think also another key factor that I think is contributing to this is in parishes around St. Mary, you hear about significant developments happening. Think about the investments in St. Thomas. Portland is now being promised an urban centre coming up, and the kinds of, again, all sorts of infrastructural work. Now, infrastructural work has been happening in St. Mary, but not on the scale that has been happening in these neighbouring parishes. And I think that feeds into, again, as Ricardo puts it, the sense of disappointment and dejection that people within this large rural parish are feeling, quite frankly.
Yes?
I think so. I think people now feel much more, that Jamaican word brazen, in demanding that they see their MP. They are not afraid to say, no, me not see you. You did come by. As I said, when I spoke to those 3 MPs, this is what they were saying. That they can't let a day go by now when they don't go to their constituency. No matter how late they work in Kingston, they have to turn up at some point in the day, not just in the week, Some point in the day, they have to turn up somewhere in their constituency, and they have to convince their voters that not only am I being present in this particular area, because some of the constituencies are big, and I heard some MPs talking about the stretch of their constituencies and how that makes it difficult for them to be seen. So you know what that says? That MPs are going to have to organize themselves more efficiently and not rely so much on their own individual presence and build systems in their parish where people can, in their constituency, where people can get to them, even if it is that they are not there in person. Because if people are demanding more and are requiring more to come to get to the polls, then they certainly can't be everywhere all at once, given the spread of the constituencies. But they are going to have to do the work nonetheless.
Yeah. The final thing I'd want to say, Tyrone, Dr. Spence, Jeremy, before we go, is that I don't think we should start the funeral music, the political funeral music, just yet for Bobby Montague, because in COVID 2020, he found 9,000 plus votes. That was above average in terms of what the rest of the country did and the turnout. So clearly he knows how to find votes. In 2016, 11,000 votes. So he knows where his voters are and he knows how to bring them out. The question now is whether, as one resident said, the time had run out, while another said, don't be so sure to rule him out because he knows how to win an election. So it's to be seen.
All right. Thanks to Nadine, Spence, Jermaine Barrett. Thanks to both of you political commentators weighing in on the weather vane seat of Western St. Mary. I appreciate it. Ricardo, before we have to skedaddle, the listeners and the viewers want to know, how many shops did you stop at in the constituency? That seemed to have been a trend today.
Yes, so I went to about 4 shops.
How many snacks and other things did you get?
No snacks. No snacks. In fact, one lady complained after I talked to her, I'm going to buy nothing.
Oh, dear Lord. Come on, man.